Start compressions. We're losing the pulse.
Page NICU stat. Heart tones are absent.
Get me the scalpel now.
The nail polish was called Bare Bliss. That is the detail that will never leave the people who were there that night. That Lauren had spent 45 minutes the evening before carefully painting each fingernail a soft, barely their pink, because she wanted her hands to look beautiful in the first photo of her holding her baby. She had held her hands out under the lamp in her bathroom and turned them slowly, admiring them the way a woman does when she knows something sacred is coming. She was ready. She had been ready for 8 months and 3 weeks, and she was the kind of ready that lived in your whole body. In the way she walked through her house, touching things gently, rearranging the already perfect nursery for the 11th time, standing in the doorway just looking at the crib with her hand resting on her belly like a promise she was making in real time. Lauren was 31 years old. She was 5'4" with deep brown skin and a smile that made strangers stop mid-sentence. She was also quietly, effortlessly worth $2.6 million. Old family money, a trust her grandfather built from the ground up in Birmingham before most people like him were allowed to dream that big. 2 investment portfolios her father had added her name to when she turned 25, a property in Buckhead, another in Savannah, and a financial mind sharp enough to have grown all of it by 30% in 4 years. She never talked about the money. That was just Lauren. The hospital bag had been packed since week 34. There was a specific playlist on her phone titled She's Here. 72 songs she had curated over 3 months, beginning with something soft and ending with something that would make her cry in the best possible way. There was a card she had written to her daughter that was sealed in a pink envelope tucked under the extra blanket in the bag. She had not shown it to anyone, not even her mother, not even her brother Demarion, who she told everything to. That card was just between her and the baby. She checked into Piedmont, Atlanta at 8:47 p.m. The C-section had been scheduled. Her OB had flagged some positioning concerns at the 36-week scan, and they had agreed together that a planned surgical delivery was the safest path. Lauren was not afraid. She was laughing in the intake room, making the nursing staff laugh with her, asking if she could request a specific playlist be played in the OR, and being genuinely delighted when the anesthesiologist said yes. Her mother Celestine sat beside her holding her hand. Her best friend Rinnie was in the waiting room already, 3 hours early, with snacks and a phone charger, and eyes red from happy crying she'd been doing since the drive over. And Tavian, her husband of 3 years, the man she had loved with everything she had. He was there too, standing at the foot of her bed with his hands in his pockets, nodding along to the nurse's instructions, smiling when smiled at. He kissed her forehead when they said it was almost time. He said, "You're going to be incredible." She believed him. She had no reason not to. At 9:14 p.m. the OR doors opened, and Lauren walked through them on her own 2 feet, laughing softly at something the scrub tech said, her painted nails catching the light for just a moment before the doors swung shut behind her. Tavian told the nurse he needed some air. He said his nerves were getting to him. He said he would be right back. He was not right back. By 9:22 p.m., he was in the elevator. By 9:31 p.m., he was in the parking garage. By 9:47 p.m., he was on I-85 North. By 10:03 p.m., he was pulling into the parking lot of a Marriott in Midtown Atlanta, where a woman named Cressa was already waiting with the room key. He turned his phone face down on the nightstand at 10:11 p.m. And that was that. Back in OR 4, Lauren was doing beautifully. The spinal block had taken effect perfectly. She was talking, laughing quietly, asking the anesthesiologist about his weekend plans. The surgical team worked with the calm precision of people who had done this thousands of times. The baby was close. Everyone in that room could feel it, that particular electricity that fills a delivery space right before a new person enters the world. And then, without a single warning, Lauren's blood pressure spiked. Hard, fast. The monitors shifted in tone before anyone could process what was happening. Her oxygen saturation began dropping. The lead surgeon, Dr. Anya Weston, called it immediately. Something in her body's chemistry had shifted catastrophically in a matter of seconds. Amniotic fluid embolism, a condition so rare it strikes fewer than 1 in 40,000 deliveries. A condition so fast and so violent it gives almost no time to respond. Almost no time to fight. The room changed completely. 12 hands moving at once. Voices sharp and measured, calling numbers, calling for things. A controlled chaos that is one of the most terrifying sounds a human being can hear even when it is coming from the most skilled people in the building. Dr. Weston made the call to deliver immediately. The baby came out at 11:03 p.m. Small. Absolutely perfect. Crying before she was even fully free of her mother's body. A fierce, indignant, magnificent cry that should have been the loudest thing in that room. But Lauren was seizing. Celestine was in the waiting room when the energy shifted. She did not know what was happening behind those doors, but something in her chest, the place where mothers keep the knowledge they cannot explain, went cold. She stood up. She sat back down. She stood up again. She looked toward the OR hallway, and she prayed with her whole body, rocking slightly the way she had rocked Lauren as an infant, lips moving without sound. They worked on Lauren for 19 minutes. 19 minutes of everything they had. Every protocol. Every drug. Every skill in that room. At 11:52 p.m., Dr. Anya Weston stepped back from the table, removed her gloves slowly, and bowed her head for exactly 3 seconds before she composed herself and went to find the family. The waiting room was not full the way it should have been. Celestine was there. Rinnie was there, still holding the snack she had never opened. There were 2 cousins who had driven in from Decatur. And there was an empty chair. The chair where Tavian was supposed to be sitting. There was a cold cup of coffee on the table beside it. And a half-eaten pack of crackers Celestine had set down hours ago. The chair was just empty. Just empty. Dr. Weston walked into that waiting room at 12:09 a.m. She asked if Lauren's family was present. Celestine stood up, and the doctor's face said everything before her mouth opened. In a Marriott hotel room 40 minutes away. Tavian's phone was still face down on the nightstand. The room was dark. Cressa was asleep. And his daughter, 7 pounds 1 ounce, perfect fingernails, her mother's mouth, was being wrapped in a pink blanket in the NICU by a nurse who kept whispering asterisk. You are so loved, baby girl. You are so loved, because someone in that room needed to say it. And no one else was there to say it. If this story already has you feeling something, you are not alone. Make sure you like this video, comment where you are watching from, and share it with someone who needs to hear it. We are just getting started. The hospital called Tavian at 12:34 a.m. He almost did not answer. The phone had been face down on the nightstand for over 2 hours, and when it lit up the 3rd time he rolled over, squinted at the screen, and felt something cold move through him that he would later describe to people as grief arriving early. He answered on the 4th ring. He said hello the way a man says hello when he already knows something is wrong, but has not yet decided how to feel about it. The nurse on the other end asked if he was Lauren's husband. He said yes. She said he needed to come to the hospital. She said it in the particular way hospital staff are trained to say things that cannot be unsaid over the phone. He sat up in the dark. Cressa stirred beside him. He was already reaching for his shirt. He drove back to Piedmont, Atlanta in 26 minutes. He would later tell people he had been in the hospital chapel. He would say the grief had sent him somewhere quiet to pray. He would say it with his eyes down and his voice low, and people would nod because grief makes people say strange things and do stranger things, and no one questions a crying husband. No one looked too closely. Not that night. When he walked into the waiting room at 1:03 a.m., Celestine saw him first. She was sitting in the same chair she had been in for hours, her hands folded in her lap, her face doing something that faces do when they have already cried everything out, and what is left is just a terrible stillness. She looked at him, and something passed between them that neither of them would ever speak about directly, because Celestine had been Lauren's mother for 31 years. And mothers know things they cannot prove. Tavian sat down across from her. A doctor came in shortly after, explained what had happened in the clinical language that is somehow both precise and completely inadequate for the size of what it is describing. Amniotic fluid embolism. Extremely rare. Extremely fast. Everything possible was done. Tavian put his face in his hands. His shoulders shook. Rinnie, who had loved Lauren since the 7th grade, watched him from across the room with dry eyes and said nothing. He asked about the baby. The nurse brought him to the NICU. He stood over the bassinet and looked down at his daughter for a long time. She was sleeping with her fist pressed against her cheek, the exact same way Lauren slept. He touched her hand once. Her fingers curled around his index finger the way newborns do, reflexively, completely trusting, with no information yet about the world they have landed in or the people holding them. He stood there for 4 minutes. Then he told the nurse he needed to step out and get himself together. He did not come back that night. The funeral arrangements moved the way these things move when a family is still in shock. Celestine handled most of it. DeMarion flew in from Houston the morning after, and by the time he landed, he had already made 17 calls, handled 3 financial holds on Lauren's accounts as her power of attorney, and had not slept. He was the kind of man who went quiet when he was in pain. Not cold, just contained. He processed things the way a surgeon operates, with both hands steady and everything else locked down. He hugged his mother in the airport pickup lane and held her for a long time without saying anything. Then he got in the car and started thinking. The repast was held at Celestine's home in southwest Atlanta 3 days after Lauren passed. The house was full of food, no one was eating, and people speaking in the hushed tones that fill the rooms of the grieving like furniture. Tavian moved through it beautifully. That is the only word for it. Beautiful performance. He accepted hugs with his eyes wet just enough. He said Lauren's name with the right amount of weight in his voice. He let the older women from her church press his hands between theirs and tell him God had a plan, and he nodded slowly like a man receiving something sacred. He named the baby Simone at the repast. Said it was Lauren's middle name. Said Lauren had mentioned it once, and he wanted to honor her. Celestine covered her mouth with both hands. The room went soft with emotion. DeMarion stood near the back wall with a plate of food he had not touched and watched his brother-in-law with the particular stillness of a man who is filing things away. 2 days after the repast, Tavian was on Lauren's MacBook. He had the password because Lauren had trusted him with everything. Every password, every account, every key to every door. She had been that kind of wife. The kind that loves without a ceiling. The kind that sees the best version of a person and just decides that is who they are. She had added him to nothing financially because her family's attorney had advised against it before the marriage, and Lauren, brilliant as she was about money, had agreed. But she had given him the passwords. And right now that was enough. He started with what was easiest. A brokerage account she rarely checked. $47,000 in index funds she had set up on autopilot years ago. He liquidated it on a Tuesday morning in under 12 minutes. The confirmation email went to Lauren's inbox. He deleted it. Then he found the LLC her grandfather had structured the Savannah property under. He began making calls, presenting himself as managing her estate. His voice was calm, and certain the way voices are when a person has been rehearsing something for longer than anyone realized. The property manager for the Buckhead house received an email from Lauren's account asking about early lease termination timelines. A financial advisor received a call asking about liquidating the smaller of her two portfolios. A private real estate contact received a message about a quiet sale, no listing, cash preferred, quick close. On Thursday evening, Tavian booked a one-way flight. Valencia, Spain. Departure in 13 days. He used a credit card Lauren did not know about. He sat in her kitchen, in the home she had bought and furnished and filled with warmth and light, and he booked it with the same calm a person uses to order takeout. Then he went upstairs, walked past the nursery with the name on the door that had been painted in soft gold letters before Lauren even came home from the hospital. Did not stop, did not look, went to the bedroom, and slept fine. He visited Simone twice in 10 days. Both times were short. Both times there happened to be a nurse or a family member present to witness it. Demarian noticed. Demarian noticed everything. The twice in 10 days. The way Tavian had positioned himself as the grieving husband in every public space, while being functionally absent from the NICU, where his 6-day-old daughter was sleeping under warming lights without her mother. The way he had deflected twice when Demarian mentioned the estate casually in conversation, nothing direct, just a mention, and both times Tavian's eyes had done something small and quick that most people would not catch. Demarian caught it. He went back to Houston on day 11. He sat down at his desk, and he opened Lauren's financial records. Pregnant and gone. Demarian was not the kind of man who moved on emotion. He had built his entire career on the understanding that numbers do not lie. People lie. People cry and deflect and perform and reconstruct timelines in their heads until they believe their own version of events. But numbers sit exactly where you put them. And when someone moves them, they leave marks. He opened Lauren's financial records on a Tuesday night in Houston with a cup of coffee going cold on his desk, and the kind of focus that comes from loving someone your whole life and suddenly having nothing left to do for them except this. Lauren had granted him power of attorney at 36 weeks. It had been her attorney's suggestion, and Lauren had agreed immediately, laughing, saying Demarian would probably manage her estate better than she did anyway. He had filed the paperwork and forgotten about it the way you file away things you hope you never need. He needed it now. The first thing he found was the brokerage account. $47,000 in index funds. Liquidated on a Tuesday morning, 11 days after Lauren died. The confirmation had been sent to her email and deleted from the inbox within minutes, but Demarian had administrative access and deleted did not mean gone. He sat with that for a moment. Then he kept going. The Savannah Property, LLC, had received 3 calls in the past 2 weeks from a number registered to Tavian. He pulled the call logs. He pulled the email sent from Lauren's account in the same period. There was one to her property manager asking about lease termination. One to her financial advisor, asking about liquidating her secondary portfolio. One to a private real estate contact Demarian, did not recognize asking about a quiet cash sale on the Buckhead property. No listing, no agent, no paper trail that a casual eye would follow. But Demarion was not a casual eye. He leaned back in his chair, pressed his hands flat on the desk, breathed once through his nose. Then he pulled up the travel records he had requested through a contact at a firm that did investigative financial work. One-way flight. Valencia, Spain. Tavion's name. Booked 9 days after the funeral. Departing in 4 days. Demarion closed the laptop. Opened it again. Because there was one more thing. Lauren had shared a cloud folder with him years ago. She called it the vault. It was just a place she kept important documents, scanned receipts, things she did not want to lose. He had not opened it in over. He opened it now. It took him 20 minutes to find what she had put there. She had not labeled it the way you label something you intend to share. She had labeled it the way a woman labels something she is keeping for herself, because she is not ready to say it out loud yet. The folder was titled simply with a question mark. Inside it were screenshots. Hotel charges on a joint card that Tavion had told her were work dinners. A second phone number that appeared in Tavion's call history on a phone bill Lauren had saved from 8 months ago. That number had been called or texted 412 times over a 6-month period. Demarion did not recognize the number. He ran it. It came back to a woman named Cressa. He sat with that name for a long time. Then he cross-referenced the hotel charges with dates. The most recent one was a Marriott in Midtown Atlanta. The date on the charge was the same night Lauren had gone into labor. The same night she had walked through those hors doors with her freshly painted nails and her playlist and her sealed pink envelope in the bottom of her hospital bag. The same night Tavion had said he needed air and walked out to the parking garage and never came back. Demarion did not cry. He had not cried since the night his mother called him from the hospital. He did not cry now. He picked up his phone. He called Tavion. Tavion answered on the second ring. His voice was warm and tired the way it had been every time they had spoken since the funeral, carrying that careful weight of performed grief that Demarion had been watching and cataloging for 2 weeks. Demarion said his name, said it once, and then began to speak. He did not raise his voice. He laid it out the way he laid out findings in a client report. The brokerage account, the Savannah calls, the Buckhead sale inquiry, the flight to Valencia, and then Cressa, and then the Marriott, and then the date. Tavion was quiet for 4 seconds. Then he laughed, a short, uncomfortable laugh that people produce when they are buying time. He said Demarion was out of his mind. He said grief did things to people. He said he understood that losing Lauren had been devastating, and he was not going to take it personally, that Demarion was looking for someone to blame. His voice was steady, almost convincing. Almost. Demarion listened to all of it. Let him finish. Then he said 4 words. I am in my car. The line went dead. Pregnant and gone. Tavion stood in the kitchen for 11 seconds after the call ended. Demarion could not see that, but it happened. 11 seconds of complete stillness, phone in hand, the house quiet around him the way a house gets quiet when something has shifted permanently inside it. Then he moved. He had already packed a bag 3 days ago. Not for Spain. Not officially. But some part of him had known, in the way that guilty people always know, that a moment like this one was always going to come eventually. The bag was in the back of the closet, behind Lauren's winter coats. He pulled it out without looking at the coats. Passport. Cash $14. Zero and a rubber-banded stack he had been building for 6 weeks. a hard drive with account information and routing numbers, a burner phone he had bought at a gas station in Marietta. He zipped the bag in under 2 minutes. He did not go upstairs. He did not walk past the nursery. He did not stop anywhere in that house to absorb what he was leaving behind. He went straight through the kitchen to the garage, straight to Lauren's Range Rover, the one she had bought herself 3 years ago, the one that still had her parking pass clipped to the visor, the one that had a half-empty bottle of her lotion in the center console and a baby name book in the back seat with the spine cracked open to the S section, Simone circled in her handwriting with a small heart drawn beside it. He threw his bag in the passenger seat. And he left. It was 11:48 p.m. Atlanta was wet. It had been raining since early evening, the kind of steady Georgia rain that makes the highway shine under the lights and turns every curve into a negotiation between the driver and the road. Tavian got on I-285 doing 70, then 78, then 83. He had no destination that made sense. He was not going to the airport. His flight was not for 4 days, and DeMarion was already in his car, which meant he had maybe 20 minutes before someone was at that house. He was just moving, the way people move when the only instinct left is away. His phone rang twice from the passenger seat. He did not answer. The third time it rang, he grabbed it without looking and threw it into the back seat and pressed the accelerator down further. 87 miles per hour on a wet highway in the dark, in a car that belonged to a woman who was 6 feet in the ground, because he had not been there when she needed him. There is a curve on I-285, near the Cascade Road exit, that demands respect even in dry weather. In the rain at 87 miles per hour, it demands something else entirely. The Range Rover hit it wrong. Not dramatically. Not the way crashes look in movies with the slow motion and the music swelling. Just wrong. Just a fraction of a degree of wrong that became everything wrong in about 1.5 seconds. The back end stepped out. Tavian corrected too hard. The correction overcorrected. The guardrail came up fast on the passenger side. The impact was immediate, and then the rolling was immediate, and then everything was very loud, and then everything was not. The Range Rover came to rest on its roof in the emergency lane. The parking pass had been knocked from the visor. The baby name book had landed open on the ceiling of the car, the page with Simone's name facing up, the small hand-drawn heart still perfectly visible in Lauren's neat handwriting. DeMarion pulled onto Lawrence Street at 11:59 p.m. The driveway was empty. The garage door was open. The house lights were on. He sat in the car for a moment looking at the open garage, the way you look at something when you already understand what it means but your brain needs 1 extra second to accept it. His phone rang. It was a number he did not recognize. He answered. A Fulton County officer asked if he knew a man named Tavian. DeMarion closed his eyes. Said yes. The officer told him there had been an accident on I-285. Told him it was serious. Told him they had found the vehicle registered to a Lauren deceased and were working to notify next of kin. DeMarion said he was next of kin. He sat in that driveway for a long time after the call ended. The rain had slowed to almost nothing. The house behind him was full of Lauren's things, and Lauren's light fixtures and Lauren's taste in every corner. And somewhere across the city, her daughter was asleep in the NICU with her fist against her cheek, and no idea yet that the world she had been born into had already taken so much from her before she was old enough to understand loss. Celestine filed for guardianship of Simone the following morning. DeMarion stayed in Atlanta for 6 more weeks. He worked with Lauren's attorney to freeze every account Tavian had touched, recover what could be recovered, and begin the process of returning what belonged to Lauren's estate. Most of the $47,000 came back. The Buckhead and Savannah properties never left. The flight to Valencia was never taken. Simone came home from the NICU on a Thursday. Celestine carried her through the front door of her own house, the house where Lauren had grown up, the house where Lauren had learned to walk and had her first birthday party and fell asleep countless times on that same living room couch. She laid Simone in the bassinet that Demarion had driven to buy the day before, and she stood over her granddaughter for a long time, just looking, the way Lauren used to stand in the doorway of the nursery, touching things gently, making promises in real time. There are two things this story leaves behind that are worth sitting with. The first is that Lauren did everything right. She built something real. She loved generously. She protected her family with power of attorney and careful planning. And none of that was enough to protect her from a man who had decided long before that night what she was worth to him. Doing everything right does not guarantee you safe landing, but it can determine what survives you. And because Lauren was careful, her daughter will inherit everything her great-grandfather built, everything her father built, everything she built. Tavian got none of it. Not $1. Not one property. Not one more day. The second is that accountability does not always arrive in the form we expect or on the timeline we demand. Demarion did not get to confront Tavian face to face. He did not get the confession. He did not get to watch the handcuffs go on. But the road finished what he started. And Simone will grow up in a house full of people who loved her mother, surrounded by everything her mother built, carrying her mother's middle name like something inherited and sacred. Sometimes that is what justice looks like. Not loud. Not clean. Just final. If this story moved you, share it with someone who needs to hear it today. Subscribe and turn on your notifications, because there are more stories coming, and you do not want to be the last one to know. And before you go, leave a comment below. Would Lauren have found out the truth on her own eventually? Or was Tavian always going to get away with it if she had lived? Let us know what you think.